Josh and Frankie. What a couple of dumb shits.
Hello, primates! You found Primus Tracks. Congratulations! Yeehaw! I am Josh. I'm sorry for that, but there's a reason I'm yeehawing and doing those kinds of noises. I'm really happy to be talking about Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains, actually. We were talking about the track Junior today. With me to talk about that track today is a young man. He's on the 39th floor of Primus Tracks Towers. His name is Frankie.
Hey, Josh.
Welcome back, Frankie, from your perch, surveying the land, evaluating foreign policy, I suppose, from up there. It's funny because we're talking about Junior today, and it's actually Election Day in the United States as we record this. And I'm so glad we're recording this so I don't have to think about the election. I love the timing of this. And we have, Frankie, you wanted to record today, and we also want to thank the young man we're about to bring in to talk about today's track because he was available. And I thought the more the merrier to detract from the downfall of our civilization. And so here to talk about Junior today, welcome back to Primus Tracks, Sam Stewart of Flagman.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, man, are we glad to have you. You can lend some sanity to the proceedings today.
I'll try my best.
So good old Flagman, you guys just wrapped up a lot of live dates on your...
We did.
So the album, the new record's called Taste Incredible. Was that the name of the tour as well, or did you come up with a clever name for it?
You know, I'm bad at naming things. Some people online have said that. They just put it under, there's that lovely website that I'm sure, Frankie, you use, setlist.fm. And so people have just started putting everything under the Taste Incredible 2024. So I'm like, all right, that works for me. If you want to give it a name, there you go.
All right.
It's been Taste Incredible all year.
Okay. I have a suggestion for your next tour. Just to get people talking,
Sure.
And you could call it the Sopping Wet Diapers Tour.
Yes. So there used to be lots of comments on YouTube that said that about pleasuring yourself in sopping wet diapers. I used to see that on YouTube all the time.
That is what I'm pulling from. You got it.
I never knew the context of that. I mean, I guess, for some people, a sopping wet diaper just gets them going.
I'm so glad you know about
wild.
that.
That's wild because I haven't thought about that in probably a decade. That you pulled that deep ancestral memory out of me just now.
You bet. It was a staple of the old bull board too. People would just toss that out there.
Okay. And Time for Love. I know we're way off now.
Yes.
That was the whole thing that I never, when I was coming into the Primus world, I think the bull board was either gone or starting to die. And I saw this Time for Love cartoons, and I was like, what is this? It's just more bull board stuff.
Yep. Every once in a while, somebody asks about it, and I get to tell them, you just had to be there. It's very stupid. But
those are the best kind of things.
So maybe Time for Love is a tour name that Flagman could use.
Could be Time for Love.
I think the audience would eat that up. They would love
It's
it.
time for sopping wet diapers.
Let's move on. Today we're talking about Junior. That's a track off of Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains record, The Big Eyeball in the Sky. In fact, it is track number 6, so it's smack dab in the middle of your Bernie Brains record. We've reached the halfway point, Frankie. This is one of Frankie's favorite records, so actually, every record we've talked about is one of Frankie's favorite records. So every time we get to the halfway point, he gets a bit maudlin, knowing that it's all downhill from there, but he will...
It's true.
Yeah. Yep.
He'll persevere. This one checks in at 4 minutes and 22 seconds, and our 4 main players are on it playing the instruments that you would suspect them of playing. Sam, I want to start with you before Frankie gives us a live history and some commentary. What
Sure.
drew you to this track?
There was that live jam from, what is it, 5 Gallons of Diesel, that live DVD. There was one of those cuts that I saw. That was my first introduction to C2b3.
Okay.
And then the first track I actually heard was this one. And I think it always kind of, especially as a kid hearing it, was my first introduction to like Les is really kind of biting, cynical sense of humor, you know? The yeehaws are so good. Just you know, you're gonna drink your oil right out of the can, stuff like that. He's gonna reach down in your pants, give you some greasy old romance. So I remember being like, I don't know, 10 or 11 and being like, whoa, what is this? It's got a real, just all over this album, greasy bass lines. Him and Brain have just locked in. Like this one and Thai Noodles, the grooves are just filthy.
Hey, can't argue with that.
And then you've got a great Buckethead, the digga 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 digga
Yes.
digga 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 digga.
Really cool percussive guitar lick to start it off. There are a number, I should say, of interesting little tidbits in this tune that come together
a lot of places.
I suppose. Yeah, to make quite a song. Frankie, what's the deal with this one? Live performances, what we know about the track from interviews and.
Junior was described by Liz as a critique of the Bush administration foreign policies. It premiered on September 24th, 2004 at the Quest Club in Minneapolis, of which a recording is not available because, as you know, back when Primus Live and Bucket of Burning Brains Live were active, the first shows of the tour were never made available. But we do have recordings of every other performance throughout the tour. Junior was performed on 21 out of the 23 Bucket of Burning Brains dates. So this is one of the most performed songs of the record. It starts off with Buckethead's menacing riff and then explodes into a syncopation of instruments. Sometimes it was played per album version, sticking closely to the 5-minute mark, but in other cases, it became a jam vehicle. So Junior was kind of a certainty on the set list, but at the same time, it was unexpected because you didn't know where they were taking the song each night. It's worth pointing out that it's another rainbow track, which kind of highlights that The Big Eyeball in the Sky was a very rainbow-heavy record.
That's interesting. I was thinking the same thing listening to it. It was like he's playing a lot, especially at that time. He played a lot of rainbow bass. If I'm not mistaken, there's also a lot of electric upright on like, you know, stuff like Elephant Ghost and things like that. Yeah, he was like, it was real fretless heavy era, seems like.
I suppose that's contributing to the greasiness because you're just sliding around on a fretless, and so you can kind of create that.
And he gets all that like kind of slight delay on it too, and it really lends itself to the greasiness. Is the only way I know how to, you know, that's the only word that comes to mind.
Well, and this one obviously was popular with the band. You said 21 out of 23, Frankie. Really liked this one. And I suppose that stands to reason because, and I'm using air quotes, this was the lead track off of the record. This is the track that they put on the Bernie Brains website to hype the album. And I think you could download the entire track. If not, you got a short preview at least, maybe 30, 45 seconds to listen to on the website back in 2004. So this was the first I heard of the record and the lead up to it. As far as what I recall from the reaction to Junior, that sample, or maybe the entire track being put up on the website, so many people on the Bullboard, now meaning you have to take it with a grain of salt because these are disgruntled Primus fans who were disaffected and cynical and bitching on the internet. They liked the first few seconds. They thought that Bucket's lick was promising, but then when Les came in on the fretless sliding around and Brain, I think he has the spring off of the snare, is that sound, right? So it's got less bite to it. A lot of people thought that it was going to go in a heavy direction with what Bucket was laying down, and then it went in a totally different direction, and I suppose those expectations being dashed led a lot of people to say they hated the track, they weren't going to buy the record, blah, 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 yet the tour went off great, to a lot of full houses, and I'm sure they sold a fair number of records, and it was largely well received upon it hitting stores and people hearing the whole thing. I was in the thick of it there in 03, 04. I think you guys were latecomers in that regard, but it was right after the Primus Reformation and playing, 2 sets and Seas of Cheese every night and Frizzle Fry every night. And so I think that had rekindled.
Had Animals come out?
And Animals was out. Yep. So I think people were expecting something more heavy because of the direction and maybe dark. Although there's plenty of darkness on this record. I just think people had an expectation.
The first time that I heard Junior, it gave me the impression that they were. I mean, I liked the song since the first time I heard it, but I did get the impression they were trying to recycle the effect of Tyranny of the Hunt, where the riff comes in and then all the instruments kick in.
Yeah, and it's not an uncommon structure, I suppose, but they I suppose the two guitar parts are somewhat reminiscent of one another. Do you hear that too, Sam?
I could definitely draw that connection as well. I think it's also the fact that they're using a lot of the same tones, like Les is using a lot of the same fretless, and also they're kind of all that mid-tempo, slimy riff style kind of. So and then hearing them maybe not back to back, but I don't want to say there's not, some of the songs aren't songs, but stuff like Elephant and Ghost or things like that are a little more long form, slow burn jams. So there's not as many again, I don't want to call them songs, but like more traditional structure stuff. There's fewer of those, I feel like, on this album. So that being the case, I also think some of those similarities become more obvious, right? Because there's, I don't know, there's 12 tracks.
11, yeah.
And then there's 11, gotcha. There's a good fair bit in the middle, I believe, that are just kind of those longer form jams, right? So I feel like those kind of factors blend them together, for me at least. Because I find the same thing. This is a record that over the years spent less time with as a whole thing versus coming back to just certain songs. But yeah, no, I could definitely see that kind of maybe off the heels of Animals, and then hearing, like you're saying, Tyranny of the Hunt, and then this tune or whatever, kind of like, oh, well, what's going on here? But it's a whole other thing, right? That first tour was all improv, wasn't it?
Yes, 2002 was fully improv, no
songs,
no
right?
songs. Yeah, it was just jamming, 2 hours of jamming.
Right. That's pretty cool. Yeah. See, and then they break and then wrote the record in 2003, 2004.
Yep.
Josh, this song has an earworm, just like Tyranny of the Hunt did for me, and it's not Yeehaw. Can you guess what it is?
It's not Yeehaw. Well, if it's not
Nope.
Yeehaw, it's not anything, because that is the be all end all of this track. Yeehaw! By the way, Texas results are in. Yeah, no. Is it the commentary in the faux British accent?
No.
It's not that. Is it the look at him go?
Ding ding ding.
Oh,
dong,
of course, the ding dong part.
Yeah. Oh, I would have thought look at him go. That's what always stuck with me. I'll find myself walking around, look at him go, look at him go.
Yeah.
Look at him go.
And I usually punctuate that look at him go with one of those ha, because it's so satisfying to end on that. Look at him go ha, and then look at him go with a big old yeehaw. I forgot about the ding dong, Frankie. That's at the end. There are a lot of fun little hooky vocal things in this one.
Yes, because like Sam mentioned, it's more of a song than things like Elephant Ghost, but at the same time, it's very free structured.
Yeah, I think it has that because with that stop-start quality, with Brain's drum lick, and with the sliding around on the rainbow bass, it does feel like it's not as rigid, I suppose, in structure, although it certainly has structure. So it does kind of feel like you're sliding around on a pleather car seat. You're not wearing your seatbelt and you're sliding around a little bit. So we're not buckled in on this one,
I'd be interested to hear those longer cuts, like you were saying, Frankie, where they kind of take it out into jam space. That'd be interesting to hear.
We're sampling that.
Oh, nice.
Tonight.
Okay.
You will definitely hear some later. Let's listen to some parts of the studio cut. I mentioned the intro with Brain and then Les joining in after Bucket's part here, so we can kind of hear how it drops in on us. Cool. Now I'm laughing because those sounds that Bernie's making are really cool, and they're very staccato. But that rainbow bass with that tone, it just sounds like a hog rooting around looking for truffles or something.
Yeah, a couple moments at the very beginning, you can hear his hands slide across the strings right before they come in. I love those little kind of moments. Oh yeah, it just sounds so nasty and right in your ear.
For sure, yeah. And then we get that, and I faded out on it, but that, that vocal. Yeah. It's as if, because, Frankie, you described it as a critique of the Bush administration foreign policy. Les is obviously not a fan, and so it's almost just like a groan, like, oh, I got to talk about this shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Bucket's doing that guitar slapping, the bit. That it's cool to see him mix those little, kind of. Les does a similar lick at the the lacquerhead bass solo, and he does it in the Tommy the Cat bass solo. But then it's interesting to see those little moments where Buckethead that's kind of copying a Les Claypool lick, that but he's doing it on the guitar.
Yeah. And he does that pretty often in his live performances, and of course across his what is it now, Frankie, 745 studio records that Bucket does.
That's
right. And so but also Bucket's a hell of a bass player too. He plays a lot of the bass on his own records, and I've seen footage of him playing live bass, and he's damn good, which shouldn't surprise anyone. So he's certainly got the chops for it, and I suppose it's transferable to guitar, but those strings are so tiny. I suppose, and Sam, you would know, you probably have to be super precise to hit those,
especially on electric guitar.
Yeah.
And to get it that clean, but that's Buckethead, baby. He's good at this stuff.
Well, what does it take to do that? Because we know it seems to me like you just, when you're thumping and plucking on a bass, you have more room for error, I suppose, because those strings are so big. You have to put some force on them. But if you're dealing with a set of nines on a guitar, are you just grazing the string? Or I don't know how to even describe it. What would you have to do? It
seems the craziest part to me, I think, is that he's switching from that. What I'm assuming he's playing with a pick, right? And then I'd imagine you're doing that with your hand. I've got an acoustic guitar here, but like that. But that's, right. I've got my hand over here, but you got to work a pick in there somehow. Yeah. Something like that. That guy's wild, and he's doing it on. That's easier to do on this because it's got a bigger string spacing. He's doing it on a Les Paul.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The guy's a freak. He's a very talented man.
We'll leave it at that. Some things are better left a mystery, I suppose. But yeah, some of that, and he does the chicken picking too and all that. So he's skilled in all these different ways. So that hybrid picking, I'm sure he can do for days. And we've seen Todd Huth do that with tunes like Riddles Are Abound Tonight, and it's so it just sounds so complicated, and it takes a lot of dexterity, right? So and of course Bucket can do it.
Is Todd doing the similar thing on Riddles?
He's doing that hybrid picking on Riddles, yeah. So he's got a pick, and he's also using his free fingers to get those higher strings on that lick.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Stuff. I want to forward a little bit to one of our verses here, because the vocal delivery is pretty interesting, the way he jams these lyrics in his commentary about the Bush administration.
There's a boy named Junior playing Uncle Sam, got a master plan like Vietnam. Don't give a good goddamn about Saddam. Gonna drink some right out the can.
The rhyme scheme there, so it's all those ams and ands, but he's just throwing them at you, and it's like rapid fire rhymes. So a lot of really short lines, a very aggressive vocal delivery. It's a lot clearer than I remember thinking it being. So the vocal delivery, that is. So there's really good stuff going on there, and it just fits. That vocal delivery fits really well. It's certainly syncopated compared to what's going on underneath, but it just works. And Sam, you are the vocalist for Flagman, as well as rhythm bassist, I think is your title. So
it's true.
I think a lot of your vocal deliveries aren't in lockstep with what you're playing on bass. So to be able to separate those, and we know Les can do that very well. Right. How do you do that?
Yeah, I have to focus on one thing at a time. So it's usually the bass part first that I get like. I just do that until I can do it without thinking about it, and then I can just think about. I got to think about the vocals, and I think the same thing all the time with Les, like something like this, or I think the prime example is like something like Tommy, where he's going, his mouth is doing one thing and his hands are doing something totally different. That's been the way I've approached it, right? Just I got to get one down and think about the other, but. It would be interesting to hear that approach from him of how you write, like what comes first. Are these lyrics that you're laying on top of something and going, I have these written, or you write it and then, or you write the tune and then you write the lyrics on top of it. But I don't know. He's always been. I mean, he's my goat, dude. He's the best. You can't beat him.
Sam, how complex is Junior on bass?
I wouldn't say it's super hard. It's more so just that really, again, that sliding with the bong, 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 ba-dong. It's just like a weird, like a lot of gaps and space in it. So I feel like that's what would be difficult to play it and to sing it at the same time, because I find really rapid stuff like, I'm trying to think of an example. Something like American Life, and that's not like rapid, but as much as it's more like a cycle that's always repeating, right? There's not a lot of space between the notes. Right. Something like that's easier to lock in for my brain of like, okay, I just have to keep this thing going. Whereas this feels almost like kind of a tempo in the way it's kind of slithering in and out. So I wouldn't say it's like difficult in the sense of playing it, but it's like a lot of less stuff where it's like, first of all, I don't know how you thought to play that part, right? And then not only did you think to play that, you're now like doing these really rapid fire, intricate lyrics in between with a really, it's not like shoegaze or where you're kind of like mumbling and you can't really articulate it. Like it's very distinct kind of biting lyrics in a character voice. So like that's the stuff that always makes me like, I don't know. The individual parts, right, are okay. Each one I think you could handle, but then you put it all together and you're like, I mean, that's why he's the GOAT. Yeah. That's why he's Les Claypool.
You pointed at something, and it was in my head that I wanted to state that it feels like the bass drags in this, and I know it doesn't, because Les's sense of rhythm is top notch. But if he's playing it in such a way that the bass sounds like it's dragging behind the tempo, throughout the tune, it's a weird illusion.
It's similar to the other tune that we talked about doing, Thai Noodles, and that's another thing I love about this record. Him and Brain are just like so locked in on this album, and I think that's why you can create stuff like that where you're playing kind of behind the beat or sagging, right? Yeah, like obviously they're it's intentional what they're doing. It's not he's not losing the time, but it creates that really like groovy, it's kind of like swampy funk that they've got going on. And I think Brain's, the way he's hopping around on the toms and he's got that snare off, it's all like really, I think, fits in the narrative of the song, kind of that you're disconcerted, right? You're watching kind of the narration. You're watching, it's a bit amusing in a frightening way or whatever he says.
Yeah,
it's exactly. Similar kind of thing. They kind of, with the music, communicate that tension, right?
Right. The kind of the what is going on here? What is that guy doing?
We're look at him go.
Look at him go. He's just sliding all over the place. It is, and, with the lyrics around oil being a main image, or I suppose a motif. It makes sense that it's sliding all over the place because it's
right.
It's an industrial lubricant, for crying out loud. So that makes sense to me too. But it's just musically, it is fascinating in that regard that it seems so off kilter. I do want to play that part actually with the faux British delivery that Les gives. I do say. Now we know he has a fascination with British comedy going way back, and we know he likes to affect a faux UK accent from time to time. Kind of wish we had a native of the UK to evaluate his accent. Maybe I need to put that up.
Or get the poll to have them listen.
Yeah,
and identify the regional accents.
Exactly right. It's
where's Les from in this moment?
Where is this guy from? And they'll go, well, it's just an American doing a really bad Liverpool or something. Like, oh, congratulations, that is correct.
I'd be interested to hear too. Is it rooted in, is he being somebody? Is that a conversation he had with a friend or whatever? Just all the delivery and cadence sounds like it's like, yeah, this, because I know he'll do that sometimes, lifts things from conversations he's had or people he's chatted with, whatever. Like, I wonder where'd this come from?
That's
I don't know if you have any info on that.
Frankie, do you have something on that? That's a good question. I have nothing on that as far as if he had a conversation with a friend in the UK or.
I'm guessing it's something that transpired from the Oysterhead record where they impersonated the Queen, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It is, I suppose, in that vein. It's quite possible that was the case, and so he just kind of lifted that conversation and then affected the accent, but of course it does create the perspective of an outsider who is looking on at what's going on in 2003 and saying these things, and so we can it allows you to take a step back and go, yeah, I guess because when you cruise the news and you read about what's going on in other countries, you go, what the fuck is happening there? But,
yeah, exactly. What's going on over there?
But that's what people are saying about this country. So it's,
right.
You kind of have
and this would have been on the heels of the invasion of Iraq?
Yes. Actually, during Fromage and Hallucinogenetics, there are several shows where Les talks about war prior to Too Many Puppies. He does mention it on several occasions. So I guess this track was kind of the natural conclusion out of all of that live banter, combined with what was happening at the time.
Frankie, your ride's here, apparently.
There's a few of them. They're coming. There's a few of them. I mean, not to get ahead of ourselves, there's more about that in Ignorance is Bliss.
Oh, sure. Yep. And
more
48
commentary
hours to
there,
go.
so.
Tons. Yeah.
Right. It's very, very much, you could tell, is on the forefront of his mind. And I think there's I was listening to one of the shows off of, they were at the Greek Theater, Primus was, and he talks about it for quite a bit. So yeah, you could definitely tell it was on the forefront of, I imagine, everybody's mind.
Oh yeah. Yeah, without question. And that was the time, Les was actively kind of espousing politics, and he had the Howard Dean sticker on his amp case. He wasn't being shy about it. And then all of a sudden, after the 2004 campaign, you never really heard him talk politics again on stage, put anything out there. Certainly he does in the lyrics between now and then of the last 20 years. But it's interesting that he kind of took a step back from being so open about it on stage.
Howard Dean's the guy that lost because he yelled. He got too excited, right?
He also did a kind of a yeehaw.
Yeah, he got excited, and then everybody was like, this guy cannot be the president.
Yeah. We're going to Iowa. We're going to Pennsylvania. We're going to Tennessee. Yeah! That was it.
Yeah. Everybody said nope.
And everybody thought he'd lost his mind. Yeah. That was him.
What a simpler time. That's all it took.
Yeah, that's all it took to exclude you from the race was
Or
just
you wear
kind
what
of
was the dude wore the weird little helmet? There's another presidential candidate that lost because he looked weird in a helmet.
Yes,
Dukakis.
Dukakis, because he was in a tank trying to look like a tough guy, I suppose.
Trying to look tough.
And he was wearing that helmet. He just looked like a little dork. Like he looked so
incredible.
dweeby.
The things that the American public goes, yeah, no, not this guy, not you.
Yeah. So some of those things certainly backfire. But it's you're right. It was a simpler time.
Simpler time.
Yeah. What are you gonna
Josh,
do?
is there something you want to highlight about the lyrics?
No. I hate them. What the hell's wrong? Actually, we got off on another tangent, which happens when Sam's in the house, and that's okay.
It's true.
Let's hear that faux British accent.
Quite an interesting situation you all have there. I'm not sure if he's mad or slightly off center. It's amusing from my perspective in sort of a frightening way.
Here's Frankie's favorite part. And then it's gone. Like the ding dong part is just gone after that. It's funny when they throw in something for just a couple of bars and then it's gone because you have to treasure it.
Just get a little taste of it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And then,
So Josh, according to the dictionary, off center could mean eccentric.
and I think there's some inadvertent wordplay with off center because off center could mean, yes, eccentric, beyond the norm. But also, in politics, we talk about the political center. And so somebody who's off-centered politically is, further out to the left or the right or what have you. When you bring in that line prior to it, I'm not sure if he's mad or slightly off-center. I can't tell if this guy's insane or just a little nuts. Good stuff, man. This actually is more of a catchy tune than I remember as we're talking about it and listening to the greasiness and all that good stuff. Well, yeah, so just quickly with the lyrics, it's all about George W. Bush, obviously. As you said, foreign policy. He says he's a boy named Junior. Obviously, George W. Bush was the son of, he's still alive, is the son of George H.W. Bush. I
think it too. Isn't there some one of his kind of campaigning things was that I've got the accent right. A lot of people get rid of their accent, right, to kind of communicate I'm just a down home country guy. You know,
he did. You're absolutely right. He played that everyman really well as far as
and then
from a campaign perspective.
The whole drinking the oil out of the can, right? As people, he's somebody I'd like to have a beer with, right? I've found this song is like really less is kind of digging into that mocking kind of tongue in cheek.
I haven't seen those polls in recent elections. Who would you rather have a beer with of the two major party candidates? But I remember that from when I was much younger, and I think W swept that one in his campaigns. Right. Everybody's like, I'll have a beer with him. It seems like if Al Gore drank a beer, it would have fried his circuits. Yeah, so there's some good stuff with the oil. It's great that he says he's playing Uncle Sam as opposed to being Uncle Sam. He is the president of the United States, for crying out loud. Got a master plan like Vietnam, so he's comparing the invasion of Iraq and what the United States was doing to the Vietnam era. And then he says, don't give a good goddamn about Saddam. Gonna drink his oil right out the can. So I think what he's getting at is the invasion of Iraq had more to do with oil than actually bringing Saddam Hussein to justice. And of course it was conducted under flimsy circumstances. Throwing cash around like it's made of dirt. Lots of spending, of course. War is expensive. God made dirt and dirt don't hurt. I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. Gets that monkey off the back of his shirt. So I like that he added back of his shirt because that preserves the rhyme scheme once that 1040 starts to spurt. And so I would assume that's another reference to oil, 1040, 10W30, and so on. And it could be a pun on tax money because the most used tax form that people use to fill out their taxes or to complete their taxes is a 1040 form. So I think there might be some wordplay there too. Oh yeah, impress you with his dance. and then give you some
Reach down in your
greasy old
pants.
Yeah. So he will put on that everyman act or post 9/11, the shining light of justice and truth act, and then yank on your pecker to make you feel good while he does it.
It's true.
So
That's what I want out of a president.
And then we just look at him go. That's what I want out of a president.
That's what I want, is reach down in my pants.
I've experienced a lot of presidents. None of them have touched my genitals.
Damn. I thought we were a great country, you know? If we were a great country, a president would have touched Josh Baldwin at this point. That's your question at the town hall meeting. So,
excuse me.
I'm an undecided voter, so
what you gonna do about it, huh? And then you just point at your crotch. Yes. That sweet groove can only mean one thing. It's time for Primates Takes. If you would like your opinion about the song up for discussion, read right here in the podcast, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Primates Tracks, the universal constant there. You sign up for any tier of support for Josh and Frankie, and you get your opinion read right here on the podcast. Today's track, of course, is Junior. Let's see what the Primatrons have to say about that one, Frankie. Anthony Del Preet, go Bills, says, if memory serves, Junior may have been the first song about from the album that they released on the web at the time. You are correct, Anthony. The breakdown on Junior with that walking bass line from Les and those bouncy Bernie notes is juicy. This is full-on rubber band coming from Les's bass tone on this one. That's another term that we use a lot, is the rubber band. Yes, thank you, Anthony. Yeah. Good one. And yeah, he talked about this walking bass line, and I didn't mention it. He plays kind of some kind of arpeggio or something near the end of the track, or maybe it's just a power chord. He's strumming 1/5. Yeah,
it sounds like a little tritone stack.
Yeah.
So I guess like a power chord with the flat 5.
Okay, that's what's going on. Yeah, that sounds great there. It's pretty cool. And once again, that part always sounded like it was a little dragging behind the tempo, but he's doing it on purpose. So once again, it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Mickey Waters says about Junior, I think this is one of many songs that pokes fun at the redneck Americans' reaction to the 9/11 attacks and subsequent war in Iraq and the Bush administration. Yep, you got it. And he also says, I think Junior kind of sets the tone and theme for the rest of the album, and what a fantastically bizarre one it is. Yeah, because as you mentioned, Sam, there's 2 or 3 more on the back half of this album that are critical of the Bush administration, and boy, it really stuck in his craw. Less, that is. And there's your Primates Takes. And now, it's time for Frankie's favorite segment. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The jam vehicle. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. A true jam vehicle. That's live me.
Cuts. A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The jam vehicle. Live cuts.
What's going on here? Shards of bone in my anus.
Sam is giggling uncontrollably. I love it.
That was very good. I like that one a lot.
It is certainly well received by all. Our first live cut is from Santa Cruz, Frankie. And you don't actually, it's interesting, Frankie, you don't have a note on it. You just have a time code. So it's a big surprise as to what we're going to hear. Sam, do you like surprises or is something more predictable?
I love surprises.
Oh, okay.
I love a good surprise.
You're taking it places there. What do you think of that one, Sam?
I'll have to listen back through some of that. Yeah, that's really cool. So Frank, have you listened to all of the live cuts? Is that usually where they
all of the shows?
Gotcha. Is that usually with the area where they take it out, that kind of ending part is that normally the area they jam on? Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense now that I hear it. Because when you first said it kind of turned into the jam vehicle, I was like, I wonder where would they take it? But that kind of lends itself to, you've got a cool little back and forth between, each person can kind of, especially him and Brain are just on fire. You tell they're just like locked in.
Yeah, the way that they're transitioning together between these parts and these bars is just spot on. It's so it begs at least to me, it begs the question: did they have an idea going into that, or is this pure, unadulterated, just in the moment communication? And I would probably say it's the latter, that they're just that in tune with one another, because you can, two musicians or more who are on that wavelength can make things happen in real time like that.
Oh yeah, you play together for so long, you start to like share a brain, especially on stage.
No pun intended, or maybe it was.
That was a happy little accident. I didn't even think about it.
Okay, Frankie, you were raising your finger like Tony in The Shining. What's happening?
I agree. It's probably jamming. It's probably on the spot.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, that was the whole spirit of the band, but wow, that was a really cool one. Our next cut is from Albuquerque. So
there's something about this Albuquerque show that we keep going back to it because it just sounds fantastic.
I think it's pretty impressive that he's doing all of those vocals on stage like that. It's pretty impressive.
And the amount of vocals, and then you go straight into those verses too. He's got some deep lungs.
Yeah, you got to be able to really control your breath. And I don't know if he does breath work or anything, but he's got really good lung capacity. So good for him. This cut, by the way, is just over 5 minutes long. So not much longer than what's on the record, but we're going to hear about 3.5 minutes into Albuquerque. Some magic, I think.
Look at that homie
Nice. Yeah, Birdie. Yeah, all right. Bernie's cool.
Every time Bernie comes in, it's always, he's got the little magic in his fingers. It's like Les says in those interviews where he's like, Bernie's like in the studio, like, I can only do one take. And then it's just like, wow, that was the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. Every time he's one of those people that doesn't have to play a lot for you to like, you just stole the whole song, You've got the sauce.
Yeah, he can take it away, even if he's only featured for 16 bars. Those are the ones you're going to remember, it seems. He's got some,
right.
Man, he's got
I
some
loved
good
all
stuff.
those intros he would do too at the live where he'd come out and they just have Bernie come and play there's like 5-10 minutes of him at the top of some of these shows just ripping on the keyboard.
Yeah. And then and
it was completely different each night.
Yeah. He's doing something different every night, and then the other guys are just like hanging out. Like Bernie can occupy him. Like it's a great time to run to the bathroom.
To watch Bernie Worrell play too.
Yeah,
that's got to be fun for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like I want to watch him play. Without having to pay attention to my own instrument. He's incredible. Our last live cut is from San Francisco at the Warfield. This is
the Halloween show, right?
Yeah, Halloween 2004. Ah, man, it accidentally reset it. That's so lame. I had the best intro ever. All right, I'll scrub to it here. What was it, 120?
You got your frightening figures, your terrorizers, the ones that really make your skin crawl. You got your Michael Myers, you see, they never could keep him down. You got your Leatherface. You got your Freddy Kruegers. You got your Jasons. And you got your George W. Bushes.
Of course that line's going to play well in San Francisco. Let's save it for the hometown crowd. That's funny. I think I had an inkling of where that was going, so I'm glad it paid off the way I thought it would.
Look at it go, look at it go. Look at that zombie go. What an interesting situation you all have there. I don't know if he's mad or just slightly offset there. It's unusual from our perspective in sort of a frightening way, I say.
I will rate his faux UK voice 6 out of 10 there. I just don't think it had that edge that it did in the studio.
His heart was not in it on that performance.
It's Halloween. Your heart's got to be into everything.
No, you got that. We had the Halloween theme going too, burning in the background. You got to get a little more into character.
Yeah, for sure. I caught that, and I thought that was great. But it's 6 out of 10. That's okay. As a wise person once said, they can't all be zingers.
It's true.
And then the last bit here, this junior is about 7 minutes, so they certainly take it places, and I think we're gonna hear the detour near the end. See, right in here, it sounds like Brain's just playing like a free jazz lick and letting Bernie go nuts. It's kind of cool. Really syncopated, really different, and it certainly allows Bernie a place to shine. What are you hearing in that one, Sam?
I just love hearing all the space they leave for each other. I think it comes back to that 2002 tour. They spent all that time the impetus of the band, right? We're going to get up there, and it's 4 guys that can all play their asses off, and we're going to see what happens, right? Even some of the stuff we were talking about on the previous cut where Les and Brain were kind of just, locked in the zone there. I imagine so much of that comes from not only everybody's a killer player, but then you spent a whole tour with these guys improvising. And then I imagine a lot of the tunes are born out of the improvisation. So it's just kind of a perfect storm for stuff like that, because you can kind of go walk that tightrope and you know that, Brain can go off. Bernie's going to be able to do his thing, and we're all going to be able to come back in on the one together and keep it going.
Yeah.
It's just a killer band.
And I imagine there's takeaways for musicians listening to them, especially these live cuts around the nature of improvisation and communication and that sort of thing. So it's cool that there's takeaways, musically.
You got people you can trust, right? You got people you can rely on. You're like, okay, we can take it weird places now.
So I guess I can say this, Junior, clean up the oil spill. You've been tracked. Next time, Frankie, we're going to answer the question, who is Scott Taylor?
It shall remain a mystery.
Until Frankie solves the Bernie Brains mystery of the week next time. Sam, thanks for gabbing about Junior with us. I know you didn't have your bass with you, but it's just fun to talk about this junk.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Of course, thanks for having me. I love Gavin Primus. I love Gavin Les Claypool. Always a pleasure, fellas.
Yeah, you bet, man. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much.
What's next for Flagman? You guys just did a big run of dates. Anything else coming down?
We have a few more shows this year. Writing some material. We got a couple little projects percolating, trying to figure out. I can't believe it's already got to think about 2025. Where'd the time go? I'm spending the next couple weeks out here in Seattle, just kind of figuring out what's next.
Yeah.
What's the plan?
And I know
next stage of Flagman world domination.
I know I bothered you about it last time. Any West Coast Flagman dates on the horizon? I would
love that. I've now said it 2 years in a row, so I'm going to say it again. Hoping this next year we can get out there.
I'll be here for a lot of years, so pick one. Perfect. Sounds good. Right on, man. Thank you so much, Sam. Flagman Band is, I believe, the socials. And then, Sam, you are at...
No, Sam and Sam Stew, that's me.
Sam and Sam Stew, thank you. I almost had it. Go find Sam at those two wonderful places. And
come find me.
Truly does taste incredible.
It does. And I do. Flagman tastes incredible. That's what I wanted it to read as. Flagman tastes incredible.
That's the way. Thanks again, pal. Primates, primatrons, humans.
Come on.
Later days.
Willa Mace.